Take a deep breath, take the higher road. That's what they always say, as if they know the way. They won't take it from me. But don't ever doubt yourself, 'cause life ain't just a dream. You made your own, so kick and scream. The people will act with a never-ending force. You never had the chance, so what you waiting for? The day has come, my friend, 'cause this is war. It's time and this is war.
Sometimes a story comes along that stops you in your tracks. It's not just about illness or loss or struggle. It's about the extraordinary beauty of the human spirit in the face of all three. It's about how love shows up when life gets messy, when diagnoses are delivered, when the clock is ticking, when the odds seem insurmountable. Today's conversation is one that hits close to my heart. We'll talk about advocacy, the realities of navigating healthcare, the courage it takes to speak truth in a system that doesn't always want to hear it, and the way that love can sustain you through it all. My guest, Jonathan Rose, lived this story. His late wife, Gayle DeLong, was a brilliant economist, a powerful voice in the vaccine safety conversation, and a woman who faced breast cancer with grace and grit. In the last 2 years of her life, Gayle kept a diary, a raw, tender, unflinching account of love, marriage, motherhood, illness, and advocacy. That diary is now being released as Love in the Age of Autism. It's a book that will inspire you, challenge you, and I believe move you to tears. We'll talk about her legacy, the truth she left behind, and the message that still matters today. This is a conversation about love, loss, and the fight for what's right in healthcare and beyond. You're listening to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Before we get started today, I do want to encourage our listeners, if you have questions or comments, or perhaps you want to share your own experiences with what you're seeing on the front lines of healthcare, you can now submit those to us directly by visiting our website at nursesoutloud.com. We would love to hear from you. We encourage all of you to engage in the battle and find your voice in this fight. But until you are able to do that, we will continue to be that voice for you. Joining me today is Jonathan Rose, a respected historian, the William R. Keenan Jr. Professor of History at Drew University, and the author of several acclaimed works. But today he joins us not as the academic, but as the devoted husband of the late Gayle DeLong. Gayle's professional life was dedicated to economics and research, but she was equally known for her fierce advocacy for families affected by autism, her critical work examining vaccine safety data, and her unrelenting devotion to her daughters. In her final years, as she faced a breast cancer diagnosis, she chronicled her journey, writing honestly about the medical system, love, motherhood, and the meaning of life. That work is now published as Love in the Age of Autism. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kim. That was a wonderful introduction. It was very touching to me. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. I really want to start at the beginning because I want my listeners to get a sense of who Gayle was. Not the beginning of her illness, but the beginning of her as you knew her. If you would just share with my listeners, tell us who Gayle was.
Well, and I met her. She was a graduate student at NYU. I was already a professor at Drew University. We met in New York City. It was in the 1990s, and at that point, New York City was a lovely city for lovers, actually. It was wonderful. We met actually through a dating service. It was pre-electronic. You actually had to type out a letter, put a stamp on it, and mail it in.
Oh, the old personal ads. Yes.
Exactly. The old person. Exactly.
Yes.
We always said it pays to advertise. And it worked. We developed a lovely close relationship, and enjoyed all the entertainments of the city, and didn't feel it was unsafe. Didn't feel that the It was lovely, and I think she was a very free spirit. She valued her freedom. She was the most self-directed woman I've ever met, and I loved her for that. Um, and we hit it off because we respected each other's independence. We never tried to push each other into a mold or do anything we didn't really want to do. And we were absolutely devoted to each other as a result. We were individualists, and individualists often find it difficult, I think, to find a soulmate because, we're all sort of
I
often.
was thinking of that as I was reading, the beginning of the book, and I could really relate to that because I'm very much that way. I'm a very like almost hyper independent person, very individual. So I really felt like I could totally relate to what you were saying in that first opening of the book when you talked about meeting Gail for the first time and you really enjoyed each other, but you kind of scaled it back a little bit because you knew she was in school and she had all of I really loved that you respected her autonomy because that's very rare, as you said.
Well, it was pursuing a PhD, which she was doing at the time, means an investment of a lot of time and energy, and I had to, understand that,
Mhm.
and give her the space she needed, and I let her take the relationship at her own speed. Okay,
Yeah.
um, but she was also very open, very frank about love, frankly about sex. And she was always that way with me and with our children. I'll talk about sex education later. Uh, but I think she had a very, very warm and loving relationship with her father, who was a veteran of Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
And I think it often illustrates a girl who has a close relationship with her father will have a loving relationship with men when she becomes a woman.
Oh, I think that's 100% true. Absolutely. So you meet her, you have this incredible connection. You later marry, and you have
Yes,
two children.
yes, we do. Jennifer, the older daughter, and Flora, the younger
Wow. So tell me about when you discover the autism and how that affects your life, and do you know or feel right away that it could be related to vaccine injury?
one. Okay, we first of all, we didn't immediately recognize it. There were daycare workers. There was one pediatrician who suggested they might have autism. At first, we didn't listen to them, to be frank. We had a stereotype in our mind that autistic kids don't like to be touched and hugged. And Jenny was a very, very huggy child, so we sort of dismissed that. But as her condition progressed, we did take her in for a neurological examination about age 4, and then it was confirmed. And it was devastating. We had the idea that we'd never have a normal life again, and she would be laboring under a terrible, terrible handicap. But we were able to deal with it ultimately. Um, and then her younger sister arrived, and at first she seemed entirely normal. She met all of her milestones. She had perfect eye contact, a very happy, warm child, and then gradually, she faded away. We have in our house um, we took family photographs every holiday season, and we have one for each year in chronological order. And you can actually see Flora gradually losing eye contact with the camera
Yeah.
over time. It's photographic evidence. We didn't know what was causing it. And we didn't, after her fifth well baby visit, she got her second MMR shot, and she visibly progressed, but we didn't connect immediately the two events. A few months later, I was alerted to David Kirby's book, Evidence of Harm, which had just come out. And I remember I was going to Washington on the Metro liner on academic business. I took the book with me to read. And when I got to the hotel, I called Gail and I said, "This is it." Kirby's theory was that there's mercury, of course, in many vaccines. There still is some. And that basically autism was mercury poisoning. Now, it turned, I think, you know, I certainly mercury was a contributing factor. I think there were other factors as well. The MMR, for example, didn't contain any mercury. So it could also, we began to arrive at the conclusion that it was also vaccination itself that could cause basically an allergic reaction. Most children, when they are vaccinated, they're all right with it, but a certain subset are genetically vulnerable to it, and that's why most children who are vaccinated don't get autism, but some do, and it tends to run in families because there is definitely a genetic component to it. But there has to be both a genetic predisposition, I think, and a environmental insult to cause autism.
I think that's interesting because that many people will posit that autism is genetic, and it's the two don't have to be mutually exclusive. It can have a genetic predisposition as well as, like as you said, having the environmental trigger, aka the vaccine, that is kind of creating the perfect storm. So
Right.
both can be true.
As is the case with cancer. It's
right. Exactly.
Or carcinogens in the environment. Obviously, yes and yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think, people spend too much time arguing one point or the other. No, it's the vaccine. No, it's genetics, but it can absolutely be both. And that makes sense where you have two children
Yes.
And did they start to show signs of this around the same age?
Yes, they did. And frankly, Flora ultimately regressed more because she was younger and more vaccines had been added to the schedule. And so she got more of the more exposure.
And what year were your children born?
1996 and 2000.
Okay. Yeah, so what was it for you or for Gayle that kind of clicked and thought, well, maybe the vaccine is a contributing factor? Was it something that you had heard in the media, or what brought you to that conclusion?
It was David Kirby's book, yes. I'm a historian. I know something about the history of medicine, though it's not my specialty. And I understand how iatrogenic diseases happen, as diseases caused by doctors. They think they're doing the right thing. They think they're doing something, for the benefit of the patient's health, but inadvertently, at least, they cause more problems than they cure, and they don't like to admit that. It's very, very difficult to get them to recognize that they've been doing the wrong thing all their careers, or at least that they have to modify their practices somewhat. So in that sense, the Kirby's theory made perfect sense to me.
Right. And this was right around the time that Andrew Wakefield had started to come out talking about the connection between the MMR vaccine and autism. Isn't that about that timeline?
About that time, yes, yeah. Exactly.
When it was, then they, as they like to say, and so often refer to it as being debunked. That's their favorite word.
Well, yes, I mean that is it's a cliche, and of course it wasn't. The article he had in the Lancet, in fact, didn't say that he'd proven that vaccines cause autism. Right. He simply said this is a hypothesis. We have these 12 cases where there seems to be a connection, but that doesn't prove anything.
Right.
And we should have further research on it. It was a case study, not a representative scientific study. It was never pretended to be anything more than that. So how could it be fraudulent? All he's simply saying is, let's look at this further, let's study it further. But it wasn't. And I think he was a victim of a gross miscarriage of justice. He's basically an innocent man who tried to speak the truth and was destroyed by the media to a large extent for that.
Absolutely. And so what was it like? What were the challenges of raising these two beautiful daughters that you have, but that were so severely affected with the autism? What was that like?
Well, we had to rearrange our lives. A lot of autism moms quit their jobs and devote themselves full time to taking care of their children. Gayle was a dedicated career woman. She would have shot herself if she had to stay home all the time. So we basically, she was also a professor. She taught at Baruch College in New York City. And we staggered our teaching schedules. I taught Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She taught Tuesday, Thursday. someone was always at home with the girls.
Yeah.
We divvied up the household duties. I was the cook. I did the grocery shopping and cooked dinner because I had an ulterior motive, I have to confess. If I let Gayle do the cooking, she would have served me stir-fried tofu. Anything.
Oh no. Yeah.
Okay. No, no. So I was happy to take charge of that. Um, and things like driving the girls to and from doctor's appointments and uh, 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 doing research on possible treatments and so on. That again, we divided up, and as a result, she was able to carry on her career, to win tenure, and to publish.
Yeah. That's amazing. Now, as you're kind of going on and you're raising these girls and you're learning more and more about autism, were there any type of like treatments that you tried, any type of detoxifications, or what
Yes.
were some of the things that you looked to try to reverse the damage?
Well, with the case of Flora, the younger one, she cried herself to sleep every night.
Mm.
And the doctor recognized it was gastrointestinal distress, which of course is fairly common among autistic kids. And so we modified the diet, and she slept so soundly that Gayle thought she had died.
Oh,
But that problem was taken care of. We also tried chelation, which is say the process that removes toxic metals from the body. Unfortunately, it did not work with Flora. There was no improvement. There was rather dramatic improvement in Jennifer, the older one. She didn't speak much. She was very speech delayed before we did that. And after we did it for a while, we couldn't shut her up. I remember, in the supermarket, I would see parents with their little children, the children sort of babbling away as children do, and the parents are bored and sort of sick of it. And I would envy them because at least your kid's talking to you, and that I really missed. Well, after a while, Jennifer did the same, and so that problem was to a large extent taken care of. She also began writing. Just sat down at the keyboard and just flowed out. When she was like in the sixth grade, she wrote a newsletter for her classmates called the Backpack News and distributed it to them for free. And that proved to be a real talent that flourished with her. She is a published author. She published her first book when she was still in college. College was a struggle because, yes, if you have autism, it's very, very difficult. Not impossible, but difficult to navigate college, but she was ultimately able to do it. So that treatment did, I think, help her considerably. We tried any number of others, without success.
mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many different, you mentioned the chelation. There's so many different types of detoxes and different treatments that are even emerging today. And it's interesting that what works for one doesn't always work for another. And I just, I wish that we could find, that one size fits all. But unfortunately, healthcare is not that way. I think that's kind of part of the problem with healthcare is that a lot of people do try to treat it as a one size fits all, protocol driven, which is kind of how we got here today. But Gayle was very much outspoken in this space of vaccine safety. Can you tell me a little bit about her work in that arena?
Yes, she did work for Safe Minds, which is a group that tried to get mercury out of vaccines. They're still around for a while. She published a number of articles because she had statistical skills as an economist, and she was able to show, for example, a correlation between the HPV vaccine and ovarian failure.
Yeah, I saw that. She was questioning the HPV vaccine and the changing birth rates in the United States. I saw that
I,
study.
I
Yeah.
think in part it's driving that, yes. And of course, she was attacked, ridiculed for that because they kept saying, "Well, you're not a doctor." And I told her, your response should be, "No, I'm not a doctor. I'm an economist. That means I can count." Uh, and she had the kind of statistical skills that most doctors don't have. So she was able to reveal these connections. Now, some of her articles were Under pressure, the journals had to withdraw them. But they got out and they attracted a huge readership. And she was also studying the correlation between vaccine rates and autism. It's on a state by state basis. So in that sense, I think she made an enormous contribution.
And then she, fast forward a little bit, she became ill. And what year was that where she got her cancer
That
diagnosis?
was oh gosh, it was I think that 1990, no, 2000. It was 7.5 years before she passed away.
Okay, she passed in 2022, right?
Yes, so it was like 2015, I think.
And what was it like when she got that devastating diagnosis?
It hit her right in the gut, me in the gut.
Yeah.
But we were a very kind of can-do, optimistic couple, and we said, okay, let's how we going to fight this? How are we going to deal with this? And when my daughter Jennifer, she graduated from college, she was a football player, I forget his name, a black football player who gave the commencement speech. And he's had a lot of troubles in his life. There had been crime in his family and drugs and jail time and so on and gangs. And he said his philosophy of life was, so what? Now what? Bad things going to happen to you. Okay, where do you go from here? And I thought that was an excellent philosophy of life, and that was how we determined to deal with both autism and also with cancer. She went to, in the first instance, to Sloan Kettering, which is near where we live in New Jersey, and she talked to there was a female surgeon. I'll explain why that's significant. Who told her right off the bat, okay, we're going to do chemo and radiation. Mm-hmm. And Gayle was a little bit taken aback by it. She didn't entirely trust conventional medicine. Yeah. And she said, well, could I have a second opinion? And the surgeon said, there are no second opinions at Sloan Kettering. We all follow the same protocol.
Yeah, there's the word protocol.
Yeah, it got more and more tense. And I can only have to describe the attitude of the surgeon toward her as a wife who suspects her husband of cheating on her. Mm-hmm. Gayle, what are you holding back from me? Mm-hmm. More and more confrontational. Well, ultimately, Gayle said, I've had it with that. And, she to a large extent, took charge of her own treatment. She did the research, which was, breathtaking, while she's having a full-time job, while she's taking care of two autistic children. Somehow she was able to do all that. And, and to be honest, I didn't understand a lot of the numbers and the factors and the research involved. But I trusted her. I wanted to keep her around, believe me. But her attitude was, this is my body, it's my life. I'm going to do it my way. And that's one of the reasons I loved her.
So she wrote the book. She was, in other words, she was in charge of her life, her body, what she was going to do. And that's the way, I think all of us should be. We think we rely too heavily on these institutionalized, unconventional medicine that tell us that the standard of care in this country is chemo, radiation, and surgery, and there could never be any other way to possibly cure cancer. But every day we see that is not the case. We see very promising results with other medications and other treatments. But these are things that, unfortunately, mainstream medicine just doesn't seem to want to get out there into the public.
She did have a single mastectomy. She did also later on do radiation. Mm-hmm. She never did chemo. Yeah. Her department chair also came down with cancer and did chemo, and he was reduced to a wraith. And frankly, we attended his funeral. I think that she realized that the cure would be worse than disease in that case. She had 7.5 years of relatively healthy life most of the time, with a good quality of life most of the time. Would chemo have extended that to 8.5 years? Maybe. We don't know. We never tried that experiment. But a rational person might very well say, I prefer 7.5 years reasonably healthy, 8.5 years with a devastated body. Um, so that was her decision.
I think people many times just don't consider quality of life. They think solely about quantity. When
Yeah,
my husband, when they gave him his cancer diagnosis, and he passed in 2023, when they gave him his cancer diagnosis, they said, "Well, here are your options. We can do chemo and radiation," and he was already at stage 4 when they discovered his cancer. They said, "Well, we can do chemo and radiation," and they gave him 6 months to live, I believe. And they said, but if we do this, you'll get 3 more.
yeah,
So for 3 more months, they were suggesting that he go through chemo and radiation and be miserable instead of, offering him the ability to just enjoy, what time that he had left
right,
in, like, as you said, in reasonably, good health, not plagued by the effects of chemo and radiation and all that comes with it. So he immediately chose hospice, and I fully supported his decision there. Um, but I feel like,
I'm sorry that happened, but I mean, I certainly, I know what you've been through.
yeah,
Exactly. But yes, the autonomy of the patient, I think, does have to be respected. Um,
yeah,
and I think that uh, yeah, it was something that she was always self-directed, and it didn't go with the crowd. Plowed her own furrow, and that's why I admired her.
yeah, yeah. I feel like really, truly, so much of what Gail, wrote about really lines up with, what we advocate for at Nurse Freedom Network, at Remnant Healthcare, as you
Yes.
said, patient autonomy, truth in medicine, and compassionate care of the patients. But so you feel like that there were moments in her healthcare journey, obviously you alluded to that, where she did not feel like she was being truly heard.
No, and but she wouldn't put up with that.
Yeah.
Um, it was uh, she was going to do things her own way,
Hmm.
and uh, I think she made the right decision.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think it made for a better quality of life. I think um, that she had good reason not to entirely trust conventional top-down authoritative medicine, put it that way. Or put it this way, I think what she was saying is the treatment has to be tailored to the individual patient. You
Correct.
can't just follow the same protocol. It doesn't take into account one's immune system, doesn't take into account what other issues you're dealing with. Um, so it has to be much more tailor made to the individual patient. Now, she did do things like coffee enemas. She did organic diet. I think this was we all sort of got on that. And the so estrogen blockers, and that was her arsenal of treatments.
And it makes sense to me, and I think it should make sense to everybody that we would look at somebody's individual makeup before we make decisions and push for protocol driven healthcare. That's why I work so hard to get remnant healthcare. That's why I build remnant healthcare, because it is truly so important to focus on individualized patient care, autonomy, letting them get in the driver's seat of their own health and their own life, versus just, again, the chemo, radiation, surgery. People don't understand cancer is a $1 billion industry. At the
Yes.
end of the day, do they truly care about the outcome for the patient, or is it just another, checkbox and, another
I think medicine, like a lot of even doctors, are discontent with this. Has become more and more corporate.
Mhm.
Uh, the idea of the independent physician operating, on his on by his own judgment is there's less and less room for that,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's not a good trend.
No, exactly. When I've been in healthcare long enough, I've been in healthcare for 28 years, and I saw, a lot of the rise of that corporate medicine. It was like these larger hospital corporations would come and they would take over all of these smaller independent practices. And
Yes.
they, lure them in with the promise of, guaranteed salary. We'll give you for 2 years, we'll give you X amount of dollars. And then, you've got to start producing um, a certain amount. Your production has to be up to par, or you won't make that kind of money anymore. But they lure them in, and it's like selling your soul to the devil, is what I liken it to. And I've worked for many doctors as they were trying to take these practices over, and I would plead with them not to do it. I was like, you don't understand. I know this sounds good to you now. I'm like probably 22 years old at the time, so they're not listening to me anyway, right? Because what do I know? But I said, I see what's happening. I see the writing on the wall. I understand that this seems like a good idea moving forward for you because, I can't imagine what it's like to be a doctor and have all of those student loans hanging over your head. You have family, you have all of the things in there, dangling the carrot. Um, so I can understand why people would want to go for it. But so many of these physicians slowly lose their autonomy and their ability to truly care for patients as they're taking over. But with the use of this protocol medicine, these doctors don't even think for themselves any longer. They're automatons.
I think that's a much larger problem in our society, that we are, as individual citizens, losing our autonomy. We are being surveilled. We are being controlled. We are being, regulated, and a lot of our political controversies revolve around that, and they're basically rebellion against that kind of control. That the principles of individual freedom on which this country was founded are very much being challenged and eroding away. And I think it's a healthy development that a lot of people are pushing back against that.
Yes, not enough, unfortunately, but it's a work in progress. And that's why, so many of us continue to speak out and speak up to hopefully inspire and encourage others to join in and do the same. Because I believe with everything in me that what they did in 2020 was just a dress rehearsal for what's to come. I have no
Yes.
doubt that they're going to do it again. And my hope and my prayer is that more people will stand with us and try to hold the line. And, as we do hold the line, we hope that more people will join in. We do have to take a very quick break, but when we come back, I really want to dig into this incredible diary that
Yes.
Gayle was working
Sure.
on. America Out Loud Talk Radio plays on the iHeartRadio network. You can also listen on our media player from any web browser anywhere in the world. We have the best in-class apps available on Apple, Android, or Alexa, 24/7 Great Talk Radio. All of our shows go to podcast the following day. You can hear them on apps such as Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeart Podcast, and many more. Be sure to subscribe and rate the show on Apple Podcasts for me. Don't forget to check out our online store at americaoutloud.shop, where you can find all of the products that we represent on our network at a discounted rate, including an incredible line of products from Chemical Free Body. Unlike the majority of supplements you'll find on the market today, with Chemical Free Body, you won't have to worry about harmful ingredients, binders, fillers, or flow agents. Their ultra-safe breakthrough nanosilver technology destroys pathogens, balances the microbiome, and boosts immunity. All of these products are proudly made in the USA and are backed by an unheard of double your money back guarantee. I've made a twice daily Green 85 drink part of my routine, which has led to a decrease in belly bloat and an increase in my energy throughout the day. Use promo code OUTLOUD to save 20% off the Healthy Gut Bundle. I'll catch you on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Feeling the strain of rising costs? One of the biggest offenders isn't gas or groceries, it's healthcare. Over the past decade, health insurance premiums have skyrocketed by 47%. So ask yourself, is your money working for you, or are you stuck in the old sick care system? The Wellness Company offers a better way: holistic, natural, and preventative care without middlemen or red tape. With their One Wellness Elite membership, you get incredible value for just $100 a month, 2 free medical-grade nutraceuticals, free prescriptions on over 800 medications, free 24/7 concierge telemedicine access, discounts on supplements and emergency kits, no tricks, no hidden fine print. If you're already spending $100 plus a month on health expenses, this membership can save you money while providing real, useful care. This isn't insurance, it's well care. Listeners get an exclusive discount with code OUTLOUD at twc.health/OUTLOUD. take control of your health today.
You wouldn't go a day without brushing your teeth or washing your hands. What about washing your nose? I mean, your nose does filter the air you breathe, air loaded with bacteria, viruses, and irritants. Make nasal hygiene part of your routine with Clear. No messy bottles to fill, no drowning sensation. Clear is a natural drug-free saline with the added benefit of xylitol, which blocks bacterial and viral adhesion. Available in stores and online at clear.com. That is XLEAR.com.
In just 2 minutes per day, you could reclaim your health and cut your grocery bill in half with one simple, convenient product. Our doctor-formulated Green 85 juice formula's powerful dose of ultra-concentrated essential nutrients stops hunger in its tracks and supplies your cells with what's missing in the grocery store food. Go to chemicalfreebody.com/outloud today. Get nature's super multivitamin Green 85, empower your immune system, cut down on your grocery bill, and save 20% on your first order.
Hi, I'm Dr. James Bragman, board-certified EO in internal and geriatric medicine. Do you or someone you know suffer from airborne allergies due to pollen, pet dander, and other particles, which aggravate and irritate the sensitive nasal passages? Are you tired of the side effects of common allergy products, such as drowsiness, feeling lethargic, and dry nose? Well, now there's Cofix RX. This revolutionary product stops airborne allergy symptoms, all while avoiding the side effects of the usual allergy remedies. Shake, spray, and cleanse away your allergy issues with Cofix RX. Click on the Cofix RX banner ad in the American Out Loud shop for 20% off your next order of Cofix RX.
Let's get real, let's get loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. This is a McCullough Report, and I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. But I want to put in a word about the Bear Bar. The Bear Bar, and we feature Bear Bar products on the America Out Loud shop website. So go to America Out Loud shop and get your discount. You are going to want to try the Bear Bar. Get a whole box. The flavors include the original, turmeric, spicy, and herb. Now, these are all natural, no GMOs, no artificial ingredients whatsoever. They're carefully baked and made in a facility in San Diego, California, under the watch of Brian Bowers, who I personally know. So these are, in a sense, handcrafted. They have great ingredients and all the natural ingredients that your body is going to want. Now, they're not a sweet bar. They are savory, meaning when you eat them, you get a great sense of satisfaction. I told Malcolm on our last show, you get a sense of feeling healthy when you eat the Bear Bar. I think one of the best applications is crumble it up, and you can put it on a salad, for instance. Probably the best salad topper I think I've ever had. But you certainly can eat it as a snack. Malcolm likes to eat them right before I come on our show. No wonder he's in such a good mood when he comes on with me on America Out Loud Pulse. So when you eat a Bear Bar, this is not like any other energy or power bar. This is healthy. The ingredients include baked kale, cashews, so many other wonderful products incorporated into a bar. They are slow baked and without any preservatives. And so, that's the reason why they can crumble a little bit. But, crumbling is what you should get in a natural bar as opposed to a gooey, sticky, manufactured bar with all kinds of chemicals in it. You won't see a single chemical in a Bear Bar. Check them out. Go to America Out Loud shop and then search for the Bear Bar. Order a box. I'd suggest order a box for each one of the flavors now so you get a sense of what they are. Non-GMO, gluten-free. That's important for me. I'm gluten-free. I know I can have any one of the Bear Bars and get healthy now. So let's get real. Let's get loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio.
Well, only when the government bows to the people will America become great again. This is Malcolm Out Loud here. Join me in pushing back against censorship, my fellow Americans. Right at the top of AmericaOutloud.news are the words, many voices, one freedom, united in the First Amendment. Now is our time, my fellow Americans. AmericaOutloud.news, liberty and justice for all.
Time and this is war.
Welcome back to Nurses Out Loud on America Out Loud Talk Radio. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. Wherever you're listening from today and whatever you're doing, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. Be sure to make AmericaOutloud.news your daily stop for all the latest news and happenings. We must all do our part and share the stories, the articles, the podcasts, and videos so we can help secure America's future. If you're just joining us, I've been talking with historian, author, and professor of history at Drew University, Jonathan Rose. Let's jump right back in. Jonathan, thank you again for being here with me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the conversation. I am really happy to hear so many wonderful and beautiful stories about Gayle. And, I really want to dig into the legacy that she has left behind. I know that was it 2020 when she started
Yes, she
to write?
basically the last 2 years of her life, 2020 and 21.
Okay.
And I knew she was writing it, and she always meant it for publication, and she always, wanted me to read it. I didn't read it until she was almost on her deathbed, and I was absolutely blown away by it on two levels. First of all, of course, it's a personal document of our marriage and her life together, and that it was emotionally just swept me away completely. But also, I'm a professional historian, and I recognized that this is an important historical document. Historians like to use the diaries of ordinary people to show how big historical events and movements affected ordinary people on a grassroots level on a daily basis. They're experiencing these enormous changes. They don't have the benefit of hindsight. They don't know what's going to come in the future. They're recording their responses on a day-to-day basis. Very good. Most famous example of this, of course, is Anne Frank. Okay.
Yes.
But there are many others that we similar diaries we've used, and I recognized this is going to be a record of the great COVID epidemic. It's going to be a record of the autism epidemic. Okay. And on that basis, it's going to be enormously revealing about how these were experienced again by people on a daily basis. Relevant to this, I am currently I'm going to be teaching a course this semester on utopia and dystopia, and the final reading is going to actually deal with the COVID lockdowns, and I'm going to ask the students, did you live through dystopia? Did you experience it? Yeah, is that the way? Pardon me. Sorry. I think this will be the defining event of their generation, in the same way that the Great Depression or World War II or the Vietnam War defined earlier generations, because we experienced a degree of top-down control that we have never experienced as a society. I can't think of any society that's experienced that. Even in Nazi-occupied Europe, they kept the theaters open, they kept the schools open, but everything got shut down. And the consequences of that, the costs in terms of loss of education, in terms of the devastation of the middle classes and working classes, economic devastation, is almost incalculable. It's going to shape our that generation for years to come. So I wanted to start that discussion among my students about, again, did we actually live through a dystopia?
Yeah,
and are we still living with it today?
I definitely feel like it was a collective trauma that was, committed on all of us. We all went through this together, and like none of us escaped this unscathed. Like we've all lost something to some degree from that collective trauma that we all experienced from 2020 on. So I think I'd be very interested in following the results of that class and what your students thought.
Well, I've spoken to the counselors at my university, the counseling service, and they tell me that they have never seen such high levels of anxiety among students. Mm-hmm. They all need counseling, and they're scared out of their wits and anxious, terribly, terribly anxious. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the damage that's been done.
Yeah,
I
I've seen that as a nurse. I've never seen, and like I said, I've been in healthcare 28 years. I've never seen such a high level of medical anxiety that I have over these last 3, 4 years, where these young, healthy, otherwise healthy people are so afraid of germs or breathing air, or I mean, they are masking everywhere, and they're just. I've never seen this level of just medical and healthcare related anxiety in my life. It's
we were
very
I mean,
sad.
we were the baby boomer generation, and in many ways we have enjoyed more freedom than any other generation before or since.
Mm.
We also, I think, enjoyed a lot of self confidence. We enjoyed a lot of freedom. We didn't have helicopter parents. It was frankly the Dr. Spock generation, and the idea was that
Right.
you let the young people do their own thing. Well, oh, that's great. I mean, they should especially when they're young. What strikes me about this current generation is that they don't feel that sense of freedom or confidence at all.
No.
They are very scared. They're very conformist. They're very uh, uh, concerned they're concerned about their jobs, among other things, paying off their student loans, yes, and just anxious about the whole state of the world, which is which means that they're in many ways old before their time. In some ways, I feel when I'm teaching a class of young people who are young enough to be my grandchildren, that I'm younger than them, that I have more,
Your
uh,
mind is freer for sure.
a more of an adventurous spirit than that which they
Mhm.
should be having, but they don't.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I mean I'm Generation X, and we were quite the feral generation. I will say that we were very feral, but yeah, we were like the latchkey kids, and we did not have the helicopter parents or any of that. And I feel like we had a lot of independence, and as a result, we are better able to use our critical thinking skills and problem solving and all of those things that just seem to be kind of missing in these newer, younger generations. It to me is
Yes.
very unfortunate. But what's really crazy to me is that we Gen X raised this generation, and I just can't understand how that happened. How we can have all of those attributes and qualities that we got from our childhood and then raise a completely, entitled, I hate to use that word, but that's how I feel. Entitled and really dependent generation. Do you think that it was by design and maybe some of that, the educational system coming in and kind of shaping that?
I think it was largely the parents. Now, maybe because they felt that they had sowed their wild oats as when they were young, they didn't want their children to be too adventurous, and they were concerned about things like drugs and so on, which was a valid concern.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe they also felt that the competition for places at elite colleges, for example, had become so fierce that they had to control their children's lives completely and schedule their children's lives completely. And they're always studying for something or uh, doing an athletic team which will look good on their college application, that kind of thing. Um, but they didn't want their children to be hippies, put it that way. And so, in many ways, they may have gone to the opposite error, which is to say, much more controlling.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But, I see, so she started writing, Gail started writing this book in 2020, Love in the Age of Autism. I feel like the title itself is so beautiful and just, it really is. Did she come up with that title, or
He
how
did.
did that come about? It's
It's
beautiful.
her title. May, of course, be a play on Love in the Age of Cholera.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
as the and it is ultimately, I mean, it's a love story, and it's true. The girl dies in the end, as often happens in a love story. But while it lasts, it was absolutely beautiful. The most beautiful thing, frankly, I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And as much I miss her more than anything, but on the other hand, I guess I should be grateful that I was able to, enjoy her for as long as I was. Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is more than just like a medical, a medical diary, medical memoirs. All of that is in there, but at the heart of it, as you said, it is a love story. I think that it's really going to touch so many people, and so many people will be able to relate to, just it has all of the, it has humor, it has tenderness, your memories together, and just all of that is really shining through, and it is at the heart of it a love story, and it's just incredibly beautiful.
I think we are put here on this earth to help our loved ones out,
Yeah.
to take care of them. And 4 years ago, I was my two daughters and my wife were all with me under the same roof, and it was absolutely crazy because, as Gayle put it, you're taking care of three demanding women here. Uh, and I was, and it was, and I say the level of stress on me was right through the roof. But I had no doubt about what my purpose in life was. My purpose in life was to take care of these people. And now, my girls are living in residences. They're no longer living with me. And of course, Gayle's no longer with me. The stress is gone, but in some ways, the loneliness is worse.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes.
Now, if Gayle could speak to our audience today, what do you think she would want the message to be? What would her core message and the takeaway from this book and this incredible love story? What do you feel like that would be?
Think for yourself, really. Don't accept conventional wisdom. Certainly don't believe what you see on the mass media. It is basically all propaganda of one kind or another. Do your own research and take control of your own life.
Right. And too many people, unfortunately, as we were talking about, especially in this newer generation, unfortunately, just don't have the wherewithal, I guess, to do that. So I love stories like this that will inspire and encourage. And I think that's what we're here for, is we are here, all of us, to help one another through. Otherwise, what are we fighting so hard to achieve if that's not the case?
And I think also the young people, they don't form the kind of close, loving relationships with,
They don't. Very
romantic,
superficial, because it's so the digital age.
or they retreat again into the online things,
Mhm.
and they don't relate to each other as individuals. And then there, I think they're really missing something. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
that this can be a kind of model for them, how two people can really be wonderfully devoted to each other, and how that is really the most beautiful thing you can experience on this planet.
It truly is. And I think that's what we're missing. You really hit it there. I think that's what we're missing more than anything in today's world is connection, just human connection, and being present, being truly present with somebody. Because even couples, when they're together, are not really together. There's a lot of, distraction, a lot of, on their phones or whatever it is. There's not anybody like actually getting together and just being together and with one another. And I think it's really sad. I think we're really
I think,
missing that.
yeah, social media has been an absolute disaster.
Oh yeah. I always said it would be the downfall of society. And now I truly
Well,
believe it.
it destroyed the art of conversation. It
Mhm.
has made a generation terrified of being unfriended. It's a
Yeah.
machine for conformity. They now know that they will not be, that they can be disapproved of by their peers, and they're scared out of their wits about that. So, and yes, they're communicating through screens and not on the face-to-face basis, which I resisted getting a cell phone for a very long time, and Gayle called me a lovable Luddite, which I am. Anyway, Luddite. But I felt that this was it would be a waste of time and a failure of human connection if I were to become too dependent upon a phone.
Right. No, I agree with you there. I can't believe we're almost out of time. It always goes by so quickly. But I've really, really enjoyed this conversation. I do want you to share with my listeners, if you will, where can they find this incredible book, Love in the Age of Autism?
No, it's certainly on Amazon or on any of the, and in fine bookstores everywhere.
Okay. And what we will make sure that we include the link to the book and to, any other information about Jonathan Rose will be included in the show notes that will accompany this episode once it goes to podcast. So we'll make sure that you have all of that information available. And we'll also talk with our producer and see about getting that book in our America Out Loud bookstore.
Oh,
So we would love to list it there as well. Yeah, so we'll make sure that that happens. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Final thoughts. It's I'll say this: if I knew in advance what I'd have to deal with autism, with my wife's cancer, losing her, I would have still married her without a moment's hesitation.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful, wonderful adventure. In spite of the heartbreak, in spite of the pain, it was real life, and that is I consider myself very privileged in many ways.
Absolutely. Well, God bless. I wishing you the very best. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And I hope to have you back again. This is a very interesting conversation. I'd love to have you back and talk about your findings from that course you're teaching.
Oh, very, very good. I'd love to do that. Thank you, Kim.
You're very welcome. And that is all the time that we have for today, friends. But remember, we are here on the air 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern with a different nurse host daily. You can also catch the encore at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please be sure to tune in and listen to myself and these courageous nurses. As we walk you through all of these hot topics, we will empower you with information and education. We will advocate and we will stand in the gap for you because we are nurses and this is what we do. I'm your host, Nurse Kimberly Overton. You can find me here every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. Until next time, be safe, be well, and God bless. Remember, we are in a war for truth. We are putting out a bounty on the real misinformation and exposing the purveyors of propaganda. No topic is off limits as we shine our lights and expose the darkness.
It's time